Good morning. I'm Kim Horley, the Executive Director of the American Burn Association. I'm sorry we're not all together to be able to share this moment, but I'm glad you're able to join us for this virtual plenary session. First this morning, I'd like to introduce to you our ABA President, Dr. William Cioffi.
Good morning. So this is not the way in which I thought I would be addressing you today. However, I would still like to thank Dr. Hickerson for considering introducing me, but I'm probably happier that I'm spared the truth or the potential for untruths that he would have told. More importantly, I would like to thank you, the membership, for the opportunity to serve as president of the American Burn Association. The ABA is one of the first organizations I joined after finishing my surgical training, and it has been an association that I have been particularly proud to be a member. The past few weeks have been stressful for all of us while we continue to balance our professional and personal lives through the COVID crisis. I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank these 5 individuals for their work over the past 5 years, reestablishing our organization to one that is financially solvent and poised to take advantage of our next 50 years. The entire organization owes these individuals a debt of thanks. This is particularly relevant as the COVID crisis will require that we once again come together as an organization to face this new challenge and again reestablish our economic stability. I must also thank the members of our burn center at Rhode Island Hospital. Although Rhode Island Hospital was established in 1857, it was not until 1994 when the burn center was established. The impact of the station nightclub fire in 2003 cannot be overstated, as it led to a sustained commitment by the hospital to seek burn center verification, which was achieved for the first time in 2009, and we have been continuously verified since that time. We are unique as a hybrid burn trauma center, but having said this, our burn team has continued to embrace the mission of the ABA, so once again, thank you to all members of our burn team. The ABA is a unique organization that cuts across multiple disciplines. I'd like to thank the members of the Board of Trustees who have worked extremely hard this past year to not only continue our financial success, but at the same time, initiate a strategic vision for our future. We are fortunate to have so many dedicated professionals with a wide variety of skills who have helped move our organization forward. During the past 5 years, our Executive Director, Kim Horley, has continued to reorganize our central office, and she has established an exceptionally talented and functional group of people to help support the mission of the ABA. So again, my thanks to Kim. Finally, I would like to personally thank 3 individuals for their friendship and mentorship over the past 35 years. As you may not be aware, David Greenhall and I started surgical training together as interns at the Medical Center Hospital in Vermont in 1981, and our program director was past President Gamelli. I am sure we had no idea at that time that we would share common career goals and interests, guided by Dr. Gamelli, and would each have the opportunity to provide service to the American Burn Association. As I pointed out last year, Dr. Basil Pruitt was a friend, colleague, and mentor for over 30 years, and I owe most of my success in my career to him. I have 4 brothers and sisters, 5 children, and 3 grandchildren who provide for my daily motivation. But it is clearly my wife, Teresa, a reformed burn surgeon, now breast oncologist, who I owe for all of my personal and professional success and growth. Thank you. When deciding on a title and topic for my address, I went through the usual pathway of reviewing past addresses, talking to colleagues who all said the same thing. Talk about something you care for, make it personal, and be passionate about it. I settled on the title of Why. Why do we do what we do? Why does the ABA exist? And why should we embrace change for the future of our organization? The title actually came from a book that someone gave me nearly 2 years ago that I promptly put on the shelf and ignored. It wasn't until I was sitting in a meeting with the president of Brown University and the CEO of our healthcare system when we got stuck discussing what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. I was representing the physician practice plan, and the 3 sides were clearly at odds as to the direction we were going to go. We had already decided on a set of principles, our why, but kept veering away from them every time we got to a decision. Bringing us back to why we were meeting, why we were trying to form a new organization, and why we were trying to forge a new relationship allowed us to move forward in a productive manner and circumvented many of the obstacles which had prevented us from succeeding in the past. The reality of it is we often start with what and how we're going to do things and not why. What are we going to do and how are we going to do it? And eventually we get around to the why are we doing it? The author of the book suggests that starting with why is incredibly more powerful in moving individuals, groups, or organizations toward a common goal. It's not that we should forget our what. Past President Hayth did a superb job on detailing on what the ABA has accomplished in our first 50 years. Subsequently, Past President Wolf talked about how we go about making decisions using game theory to explain how we make decisions, often with incomplete data. Both of these are important, but as we look forward to the next 50 years of the ABA, I think it's important to focus on our why. Our why is our mission, and that is to improve the lives of everyone affected by burn injury. If we let this guide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, the next 50 years of the ABA will be as bright as its first 50 years. I was going to focus my remark on two areas, that of research and leadership, but in the spirit of the moment, I'll limit my comments on research to a few salient points. Research from members of this organization has led to unparalleled advances in the treatment of thermal injury. Everyone in this room is aware that the LD50 in the decade that I was born, in the 1950s, hovered around a 50% burn. Today, that number approaches 90%. This is secondary to improved metabolic support, wound care, infection control, and the treatment of inhalation injury. Indeed, in the first decade of this century, the mortality odds for a 75% burn decreased almost fourfold, secondary to a decreased effect of inhalation injury and other critical illness. In 2007, past President Tina Palmieri led the Burn State of the Science Research Conference as part of our leadership and advocacy meeting in DC. The results, published in the Journal of Burn Care and Research, detailed an action plan for research for the next decade. This effort, in combination with lobby efforts to obtain DoD funding for burn research, led to more than $30 million in total funding over a decade, with 11 grants and 15 studies. A significant accomplishment was to involve a broad range of burn centers in research, and the studies helped to define the importance of rehabilitation, resulted in disaster triage tables, led to a randomized trial on the use of propranolol, helped develop a computer algorithm for burn resuscitation, and provided sound data on restricted blood transfusion policies. Despite this success, just recently, past President Greenhall and colleagues published an article on the burn state of the science regarding fluid resuscitation, and noted that to date, there are still many unanswered questions regarding the best way to provide resuscitation to thermally injured patients. Just as important, we're lacking good data on health-related quality of life for burn patients, and no real established way of studying this. In addition, we know very little about the effects that our treatment have on patients' short and long-term recovery, as demonstrated by the post-intensive care unit syndrome, in which clearly the patient's injuries and our treatment lead to long-term cognitive, mental, and physical impairment. We know very little about the long-term health effects of burns and what drives a documented 1-point-fold greater mortality in a population-based matched longitudinal study of more than 6,000 burn patients in Australia compared to the normal population. Other data suggests that it might be the long-term effects of thermal injury on our cardiovascular system. In a population-based retrospective study of more than 14,000 patients who had suffered burn injuries, these patients had a 1.5 greater risk of admission to the hospital for cardiovascular disease, and they stayed almost 3 times longer than the general public. But why? We don't know the why. The real problem is that the dollars available to perform the appropriate studies in the burn population are severely lacking. However, there is some hope. The 2016 National Academy of Science report, entitled "The National Trauma Care System, Integrating Military and Civilian Trauma Systems to Achieve Zero Preventable Deaths After Injury," called for a National Trauma Research Action Plan, or MTRAP. Aim 1 of MTRAP, which has been funded through the Coalition for National Trauma Research, is to perform a gap analysis of military and civilian trauma research and develop a comprehensive research agenda. There are 11 focus areas within MTRAP, of which burns is one. The burn part of the project was led by past President Nicole Gibran. Using a modified Delphi approach, we will arrive at a research plan for all 11 areas of focus to include burn injury. The burn injury panel has concluded its work, and Dr. Gibran was to present that work during the presidential plenary session. Hopefully, we'll get her to present it through our virtual meeting later this year. That's the good news. But once we have a research action plan, who's going to pay for it? If one looks at the total National Institute of Health funding in 2015, only 0.2% of the NIH budget was awarded to trauma-related funding and research. Viewed another way, NIH funding for medical conditions relative to their total disease burden shows infectious disease, such as HIV, to have 17% more funding than the burden of disease. Cancer, 11% more. But injuries, all total funding for injury is at minus 12% based by burden of disease, and is the lowest funded research priority by the NIH. 5 years ago, the Coalition for National Trauma Research was established, and the mission statement of Center is shown on the slide. It is to enhance trauma research in the United States by advocating for sustainable funding commensurate with the burden of disease, to coordinate research efforts across professional organizations, which span the continuum of care, and enhance the infrastructure for multi-center investigation. Although we have been successful in burn research and funding, we need to do more. A federal home for trauma research and burn research is essential, and in order to achieve it, it will take a collaborative effort amongst many organizations. This is important to remember. Burns is part of trauma. We are part of this effort. Towards that end, your board voted last night to join the Coalition for National Trauma Research so that the burn voice can be heard in this important collaborative multi-specialty effort. The second topic that I would like to focus on is leadership. Leadership was essential for our association as we have reestablished ourselves over the past 5 years, and it will be equally important as we address our current crisis. Just as we have internally focused on leadership, we also need to look outward and add our leadership voice to the issues of increasing cost of healthcare, the quality of care we get for our dollar, the public's perception of healthcare, and the future of burn care, as well as our current research funding problems. Each of us in this organization is positioned to provide leadership on some level, developing real and tangible solutions to these problems. We as members of the burn community must be leaders and certainly not followers if we are to create solutions to these problems. To be a leader is to be a change agent, and that's sometimes difficult. Chip Shoba, past dean of Dartmouth Medical School, defined leaders as those who define what the future should look like, align people with that vision, and inspire them to make it happen despite obstacles. Unfortunately, in healthcare, there's been a slow drift from leadership to management. Managers are people who produce predictability and order through planning, organization, and control. Leaders, on the other hand, stimulate change through motivation and alignment of people with an established direction. Warren Bennis made even more of a distinction by stating, leaders do the right thing. Managers are people who do things right. Over the past 100 years, theories on leadership have changed dramatically. In the early 1800s, Taylor described leadership theory as a study of productivity. Later, Weber described leadership as power by position. These theories focused on the fact that leaders were born and not made, and that leaders were all-knowing and all-powerful. This started to change in 1926 when Mary Follett described participative leadership, and that the power was with and not over those who followed. This was expanded on in 1938 by Barone, who stated that leaders influence behavior of their followers and persuade them to follow a particular course of action. But nobody said it better than Vince Lombardi when he said, quote, "Leaders are made, and contrary to the opinion of man, they are not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price that we must pay for success," end quote. Part of our problem, however, is that we lack a specific model of leadership for healthcare, which is often in combination with internal organizational conflict. Nonetheless, what are the components of leadership that are critical to success? Cousers and Posner developed a leadership inventory survey in which they asked over 75,000 people what, in their opinion, was the most common characteristic of good leaders. The results, in short, are not surprising and shown on this slide. Favorable leadership characteristics revolve around the issues of integrity, professionalism, vision, strategy, inspiration, and execution. In thinking about leadership in healthcare, there are four prevailing models: transactional, adaptive, transformational, and servant leadership. The first, or transactional leadership, is a model based on systems that support reinforcement and punishment. This model has been considered the most prevalent one used by healthcare organizations, in which goals and performance standards are set, and in return, rewards are promised if standards are met. This model relies on motivating people to work for their own personal interest, and that's contrary to why most healthcare providers entered our professions. Most healthcare providers' intrinsic motivation is to improve the lives of others, and that's in direct conflict with the goals of this leadership style. In addition, transactional leadership is usually unable to account for complex motivation. It fails to build trust between leaders and followers, something that is an essential component of the physician-patient relationship. In addition, it usually only works for one-time relationships. Adaptive leadership is a style used to enable a group to overcome challenges created by change. Adaptive challenges occur when core beliefs and value lead to failures, or when a competing value becomes more relevant. Adaptive leaders identify challenges and confront the difficult realities of the situation and the facts that our values or beliefs are contributing to the challenge. These leaders help to regulate the distress of the group and facilitate collaborative efforts to create solutions. Such solutions usually involve new values, sets of behaviors, relationships, roles, and approaches. This style of leadership has the obvious disadvantage, however, of requiring groupthink. Transformational leaders work to inspire their followers to look past self-interest and to promote team and organizational interest. For transformational leaders, organizational goals are the most important, and the leader's vision is central to success. Transformational leaders advocate for their vision and persuade others to adopt their goals. This leadership style includes four factors: influence, motivation, intellectual stimulation, and consideration. The success of this leadership style is totally contingent upon the leader's vision and mission. Robert Greenleaf popularized a fourth leadership style termed servant leadership. Greenleaf was a consultant in the area of organizational leadership. As articulated by Greenleaf, servant leadership places the needs of others first, a concept which fits well in healthcare, in which the needs of the patient should always be placed first. Such a leadership style should build trust between patients, providers, systems, members of organizations, and the like. Greenleaf, in his 1977 book, Servant Leadership, said, quote, "Great leadership is about doing the right thing in service to others, identifying their values, sharing vision, inspiring others, and working with passion," end quote. His ideas are based upon the concept of serving first and leading second. Characteristics that he defined as essential to great leadership included stewardship, conceptualization or vision, commitment, foresight, persuasion, empathy, mentorship, and awareness. These characteristics fit well with what we perceive or term professionalism in medicine. Indeed, such a style of leadership is ideal for organizations such as the American Burn Association. This type of leadership may come from all levels of the organization and requires a collaborative style. Collaborative leaders are viewed as authentic, passionate, and transparent, They have clarity, they are accountable, and they have optimism. Their goals are to balance motivations to create value, to have a shared purpose, and to do this with a sense of contextual intelligence. In all honesty, to be successful in leadership, you will likely involve a mix of all four styles, depending upon the problem that's being addressed. Our leadership style must be best aligned with our professional and ethical duties in providing high-valued care to our patients or to helping lead an organization such as the ABA. We should all think about our own leadership styles, how we use them, and how we can improve upon them. We should examine our own effectiveness and how we switch from one style to another as leaders, as the best results do not rely on just one style. The best leaders have another significant strength, and that is in some degree based on emotional intelligence. Jack Welch said, "No doubt, emotional intelligence is rarer than book smart, but my experience says it's actually more important in the making of a leader." Emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to manage our relationships and ourselves effectively and consists of four fundamental capabilities: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Each of these capabilities has a specific set of competencies and corresponding traits. Self-awareness requires the ability to read and understand our emotion and recognize their impact on relationships. It requires an accurate self-assessment of our own strengths and limitations and a degree of self-confidence or a positive sense of self-worth. Self-management involves self-control, the ability to keep disruptive emotion and impulses under control. Trustworthiness or integrity, consciousness, adaptability, goal orientation, and initiative. Social awareness embodies empathy or the skill of sensing other people's emotions and understanding their perspective, organizational awareness, or the ability to read the currents of organizational life and service orientation. The ability to recognize and meet patient and customer needs. Finally, relationship management includes visionary leadership, influence, mentorship, communication, being a change catalyst, managing conflict, building bonds and teamwork and collaboration. Understanding our strengths and weaknesses in each of these domains should allow us to focus on our deficits and become a better leader, as each type of leadership evolves from different aspects of emotional intelligence. In the next 50 years, the ABA is poised to change. The first 50 years has been incredible, with amazing contribution to improve the lives of those affected by burn injury. Change isn't easy. There's often both individual and organizational resistance. Change has to be enabled and not managed, and it must be linked to our goals, and by its very nature is evolutionary. We as an organization are poised to tackle these challenges thanks to the dedicated leadership of our past president, our current executive director, and our past executive director, Marion Jordan. I will end with a short story, which is another way of looking at our why. About 9 months after the Station nightclub fire, a family returned to our burn center to thank members of the burn team for the care provided to their family member. They were handing out boxes, each containing a starfish. I must admit, when I first opened it, I didn't know the meaning behind the starfish. However, in the box was a card entitled, "Why a Starfish?" It described that in 1949, a well-known anthropologist and essayist named Lauren Isley wrote The Star Thrower, which is shown on this slide. He was noted not only to be a scholar, but a writer of imagination and grace. He wrote on many topics, which led some to describe him as the modern-day Thoreau. The broad scope of his writing reflected upon topics such as the prehistoric origins of man, the contributions of Darwin, as well as many other works dealing with the complexity of human activity in nature. There were many variations of this story, and Isley, like others, reflected upon the potential futility of the star thrower's actions. At first, he commented that the star thrower had symbolized man, and that death was running more fleet than he along every sea beach in the world. Upon further thought, he considered his own story to be an affirmation of the profoundly human virtue of compassion. We as a profession combine elements of science and star throwing, making a difference to each patient and each family we encounter. I'm certain that this is the goal of everyone in the ABA, and because of this, we have a bright future. The next weeks, months, and year will be challenging to all of us as healthcare providers and in our personal lives as well, as our organizations, burn centers, institutions tackle the COVID crisis. The ABA has many challenges ahead of it. One thing I am certain of, though, is based on our membership and our membership's ability to lead us through change, that we will be successful and we will come out of this with even a brighter future than the one we have today. Once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the ABA, and thank you again for your being here this morning.
Thanks so much. What an inspirational talk. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Rob Cartotto, who will give an update from the program chair. Rob?
Good morning. After an entire year of planning for our conference, I never thought I'd be sitting here in front of a webcam giving this talk, but these are clearly unusual times. I'd like to begin by thanking President Bill Cioffi and the entire Board of Trustees for their leadership, along with the tireless efforts of Kim Horley, our Education Manager Susan Gell-Horton, and my Assistant Chair Ingrid Perry, along with all of the Central Office staff, for all the work that's been done over the past week as we reached the very difficult decision to cancel our annual meeting. Clearly, this was the right decision for our members, our patients, and the organization as a whole. Although there's no substitute for a in-person conference, which we all value and enjoy so much, we have made efforts this past week to set up a virtual ABA 2020 conference. And here's what will be available. First, we will make available access to over 300 scientific posters online. In the next few weeks, we will be asking all of the lead speakers from the scientific podium presentations to record and upload their talks using a downloadable software program. In fact, exactly the program I'm using right now. And quite clearly, if I can do this, you can too. We will make available all of the videos from our inaugural video session entitled Burn Care, How I Do It. There will be access to some of the education forums, including some submitted by nursing, rehab therapy, and the aftercare and reintegration programs. Finally, through the central office and Zoom technology, we will be attempting to make available SIG meetings for all of the SIG groups during what we're calling SIG Week. Our timeline for this is to hopefully have everything uploaded and available sometime in May 2020. The online program would then be available over a few subsequent months for you to look at your convenience. We would like to conclude, first of all, by thanking the entire organization for supporting this virtual program. I would also personally like to thank every one of you that submitted a talk or a poster or a education program and express my condolences that these were canceled. I know a lot of work went into all of these, and I'm sorry that you lost the opportunity to make these presentations. I also wish to reassure you that the program committee is already working on plans for the 2021 meeting in Chicago next April. We fully recognize that right now your priorities are clearly elsewhere as you look after your families and attend to unusual work circumstances. Nonetheless, we will ask that you give some thought to submitting material for the 2021 meeting in order to allow this to occur successfully. As usual, we will be making our call for education session proposals on April the 20th, and as usual, the call for abstracts will come out on June the 25th. With your help and our efforts, I hope we can make Chicago 2021 an even bigger success, and we will look forward to seeing all of you in a year's time. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Rob. Next, I'd like to introduce John O'Leary. John is a childhood burn survivor and former hospital chaplain. His journey is an outstanding example of what the future can look like for your patients, strengthened by the past and empowered for the future. John's talk is very timely and inspiring, given the current situation. Now I'll turn it over to John.
Well, hello ABA, my name is John O'Leary, and I wanted to begin this video with you by reminding you and encouraging you to think back a long time ago when the world was a very different place 2 weeks ago. Think back to the very beginning of March where you thought you would be spending this morning, what part of Orlando you thought you'd be staying in, who you thought you'd be seeing live at conference, what you thought you'd be learning, what you thought you'd be returning to, what you thought the stock market would look like, what you thought your life was going to look like, and how radically different things are today, just 2 weeks later than it was at the beginning part of the month. Think how much fear we have, how much anxiety, how many unknowns, how different our work life, many of us our financial life, many of us our personal walk, our relationships, our economic situation, all the differences that have taken place in the last 2 weeks as a result of the novel coronavirus. Radically different. And we'll come back to the virus here in a moment. But my friends, I want to begin with this. As a burn patient, in no small part, that is what happens for us, in our families, in our communities, in our businesses, for those who love us, for those who treat us, for those who know us, and for the way we look in the mirror after the explosion, after the fire, after the life that we had planned for ourselves completely disintegrates into ashes. We have to figure out also, how do we rebuild into the life now that we want to see going forward? It is an incredibly different, difficult, agonizing journey that I have been on, that many of you have been on, that many of you have shepherded your patients through, that the Phoenix Society helps guide these patients and these amazing men and women through. And today, in spite of headwind and challenges and coronavirus and everything else going on around us, we have come together still to focus on the things we can control to ensure that our patients and their families' lives are even better tomorrow than they were today. Yes, life is different today than it was yesterday. But I believe, and this video is going to remind you, that the best of our journey even still remains in front of us as long as we come together and we focus on the things we can control. So today, ladies, gentlemen, friends, colleagues, servants, nurses, doctors, researchers, therapists, friends. My name is John O'Leary, as you see up on the screen, and I want to remind you today that what you do matters now more than ever. Now more than ever. You can't always choose the path that you walk in life, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk it. When we choose, though, instead to operate from a place of helplessness, from a place only fueled by fear, from a place where we feel as if there's absolutely nothing we can control and there's nothing we can do about tomorrow, so why waste our efforts today? When that is our mindset, I find we ask 3 questions. I'm going to put these on the screen in front of you here in a moment, but I'm going to invite you not to write them down. Don't take notes. Don't even ask them aloud, okay? Because I think sometimes when we read the headlines and when we get terrified into where things might go next, we're going to begin asking these questions. And it almost always starts with this one. Why me? Why me? And when we ask that question, rather than looking up and giving thanks, we look down and then we say, oh, who cares? Who cares is the great question of indifference, ABA. But you're still watching this video. You clearly do care. You are in the arena, as my dear friend Brene Brown would say. You do care. So question number 2 does not apply to you, but recognize many individuals in our community, many individuals who are dealing with the outbreak, many individuals who are struggling with the headwind of life are asking the questions, why me? Who cares? And if they don't pivot quickly, they're going to ask the third and the final question, which is, what more can I do? I'm just one. It's a huge problem. I'm only one researcher. I'm only one nurse. I'm only one doctor. I'm only one lady, one son, one daughter, one friend, one colleague, one neighbor, one survivor. What more can I do? I'm only one. Today, ABA heroes. I'm one of your patients, okay? I'm on the board of the Phoenix Society. I love your work. I look up to you as being my heroes, okay? So you're my heroes. So today, when I refer to you as heroes, just know I'm talking to you, okay? So put down the paper for a moment. We'll get back to realities here in a moment, okay? But right now, I want to just visit with you for the next 35 or so minutes. Heroes. We look east. We recognize the day may not be easy, that there are things that ought to concern us. But we also recognize that we have control over the things in our sphere of influence, that there is ability we have still within our lungs to influence what happens next. So we, in this room, on this video, on this screen, we are going to be asking 3 different questions. How many of you saw the sunrise this morning? I watched it in St. Louis, Missouri. I was supposed to be in Orlando, Florida, but today I got to watch it in St. Louis, Missouri. How many of you watched the sunrise? 2 of you. Out of 1,200 looking at me right now, 2 of you watched the sunrise. This is a two-way camera. I hope you know I'm watching you right now, okay? Leaders, the entire world was dark. And then to the east, the sun cut through the darkness. And as we watched that light rise again, the miracle of light came through the darkness, and in awe, we in the ABA, we asked this question, because we know what we do today matters now more than ever. So we asked the question from a place of profound gratitude, why me? Why me? Eyes to see, ears to hear, hands to heal, hearts that beat free, opportunity to impact. Why me? Why me? It's an awesome question. It allowed us today to get out of bed, dance to the shower, recognize it may not be easy, but leaders, we are called for days like these. You are anointed for this. You've been called into this. So now in the shower of life, we ask the question, who cares? If it's hard, if it's not easy, if there is some massive change upon us and some profound difficulties that all of us are dealing with in the burn community and beyond, who cares? This is mission work we do. You've been anointed for this. So we're going to get out of bed and do it to the very best of our capabilities, controlling what we can and letting go of the rest, which frees us to finish the day strong by asking the third and the final question. Anybody want to guess what the third question is? Anybody? What more can I do to make tomorrow for our burn patients, for our burn survivors, for our network, for my colleagues in this room and those paying attention at home and at work and in their cars, for those who are on the front line against the coronavirus, for my neighbors, for the elderly, for the kid next door that doesn't seem to have his mom and dad around very frequently. The question is, what more can I do to make tomorrow even better than today? And sometimes leaders and researchers and nurses and friends and therapists, that question must be directed to the person in the mirror. What more can I do to make my life even better than yesterday? What more can I do? What more can I do? So today, my friends, in the time that they've allotted, I'm going to dance you through these 3 questions, starting with question number 1. What's the first question? It's on the screen. It's okay to read it. During times of panic and unrest, it's very easy to ask this question with our fist enraged, looking down as if there's nothing we can do. But today, leaders, we are going to ask this from a place of profound humility, on our knees, looking east, watching the sun rise. Why me? I still have blessings in my life. I still have air in my lungs. I still have the opportunity to think, to connect, to collaborate. Even though we can't be physically together in Orlando, my gosh, through the power and the beauty of technology, we're still here. And we believe the best is in front of us. Why me? Why me? So I'm going to encourage you momentarily to make a list of things you're grateful for, but first I'm going to give you one, okay? Let me put up in front of you a picture of my daughter, who is the cutest little thing I know. Her name is Grace, and her granddaddy. His name is Denny. That's my father. I'm going to go through these pictures, and I want you to take note of what you see on Dennis, okay? So physicians in the room, what do you notice about this patient? In every slide, tell me what you notice. That's my son Jack, my wife in the background. Keep paying attention. What do you notice? You're probably noticing at least two things. What you're probably noticing is my dad is seated in every picture. My dad is smiling broadly in every picture. And my dad is radiating joy in every picture. Those people weren't lined up to meet John O'Leary or have me sign their book. They were there exclusively to meet my dad. My dad is my hero, and as soon as I talk about him, he becomes everybody else's hero too. He's had Parkinson's disease for almost 3 decades. He is today unable to stand, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to work, earn, travel, to do just about anything else that the majority of us take for granted every day. And yet ABA, he is the most joyful, passionate, alive, optimistic, and grateful guy I've ever met. During seasons of unrest like the one you and I are currently doing life in together, it is very easy to let go of gratitude. And today, right now, I'm begging you right now, pick it back up. It will be fuel for the journey. It will ensure that your best is ahead. So right now, if you're just saying, I'm done with the day, no, you're not. We're gonna start this day right now with gratitude. Gratitude still matters. I was visiting with my dad a couple years ago, and I said to him, Dad, how can you be so grateful when life is so hard? It's how many of us feel right now. How can you be grateful when life is so hard? And my dad said, what are you talking about? How can I not be grateful when my life is so good? So I said, Dad, can you give me 3 things you're grateful for because of Parkinson's disease, because of the worst, because of this thing that has ripped you of the life that you had intended for yourself. It has stolen your finances, it has stolen your freedoms, it has stolen your ability to drive, it's taken it all, man. Can you give me 3 things you're grateful for? And I was on the screen porch with my dad having this conversation. This is years ago. He took a sip of his lemonade. It's the second one he had because the first one he spilled. It's a common thing as he's making his way through life that he spills drinks, he drops food. It's a difficult journey for him. And he gave me 3 things. And leaders, ABA, I want you to remember what my dad says for these 3. And in a moment, you'll be coming up with your 3. The very first thing he said was, John, I'm grateful it wasn't a more serious disease. It has robbed him of everything. And this man recognizes it could have been worse. ABA, there's a lesson there for all of us. It could be worse. What a blessing to have what we still have. Start there. The second thing my dad said, John, I used to be so busy, but now I have nothing but time to reflect on who I am and where God is in my journey. And I'm grateful for this time. And then the third and final thing he said was, John, I've always liked your mom. So I said, Dad, I'm glad you like my mom. You've been married to my mom now for 52 years. I'm glad you like my mom. He said, John, you're missing the point. My coworkers no longer saw value in my work, so they showed me the exit. My friends don't come around anymore because I'm no good at playing golf. I can't stand anymore. I can't go to sporting events anymore. I'm not much fun to talk to. Everyone else is pushing me farther away. But your mother, my wife, John, keeps coming closer and closer and closer and closer. And I'm grateful and I love her. So at this point, ABA, I'm a total train wreck. By the way, this is not at all the presentation I was expecting to give today, but I think right now with where we are, it's one we needed to hear. So at this point, I'm getting ready to walk over to him and give him this big, huge bear hug. And my dad says to me, John, sit down. I'm not done. I'm not done. So ABA, I'm scared of my dad still. I sit down right next to him and he goes on. I'm gonna buzz through these really quickly because I wanna go back to the most important person in the room. It's not me, it's not my dad. She's listening right now. He's on the other side of this phone. It's you. It's you. It's the work you do and the impact that you have through it every single day to keep people safe, to quickly bring them back to health and life and vibrancy, and then with the help of the Phoenix Society and other worthy organizations, to guide them through into a life even better than the one they had originally anticipated. This is still possible. This is still our mission and our mandate. It is not easy, but it is our call. The fourth thing my dad said was the time at home with his 6 kids, I'm one of them, and 22 grandbabies. He's grateful for the medical technology that has kept him up as great as he has been so far, and the men and women who provide it every single day. He talked about having rich empathy, how when he was successful and life was easy, he did not have empathy for those who had disabilities and challenges, and now that he has his own, he has such compassion in his heart for others who struggle. What a gift it is to see struggle firsthand, ladies, gentlemen, friends. You do this every day. And in that, you either become bitter and angry and resentful all the time, or you get inspired with gratitude and compassion for others. What a gift, what a gift. Just a couple more. When he has to crawl, my dad said he's grateful for the days when he could walk. When he can't speak, which is every day these days, he's grateful for the days when he could. When they drive, he's grateful for the handicap spot. Hey, what a gift, man. You count your blessings. He's rock star parking everywhere he goes. For the time to write a book called Overwhelming Odds. We never as a family talked about little John O'Leary's horrible burn accident at age 9. Why would you talk about something terrible and tragic? And then he got Parkinson's disease, my dad, this terrible disease. It changed his life. It brought him home from work. He reflected on his journey. And 20 years after his son was released from burn care, my dad wrote a little book. He printed 100 copies. He has sold 85,000. One of the books was sold to me. So for $10, I got to read about what happened to me as a kid. And experts and leaders and therapists and researchers, ABA friends, reading my dad's words changed my life. For the first time, I viewed my hands not as tragic, but as a blessing. I viewed these scars not as something to mask up and cover up and drink away, but as something to, in fact, celebrate and rejoice in. It changed the entire trajectory of my life. It's why I today speak and write, share videos like the one you're part of today, because of my dad's words, because of his diagnosis, because of some disease that we did not want. You never know what's being done. So you keep saying yes to the day, and you keep putting your left foot in front of your right, and you just watch what happens. You just watch. Just watch. I'm grateful for Parkinson's now too. Just 2 more. To see, hear, laugh, learn, and live. Everyday researchers, everyday ABA, everyday doctors, every day my dad is seeing, hearing, learning, laughing, and living. And the final thing my father said was this: for being healed, even if not cured. He said, John, I may likely die of Parkinson's disease, but every single day I get out of bed, look east, and I'm grateful that it has already been removed from me, that stress, that anxiety, that pressure. I've been healed. I'm blessed. I know where this thing goes, and I have no anxiety about it. Every day, my friends, I think we look east, and we all ask the same question. And today, we are going to ask it again right now, loud and clear, and the question is, why me? Why me? We can be angry about the way life has unfolded. We can be angry and furious that we are not together in Orlando, Florida. We can be upset and saddened, and rightly so in some regards, about what is happening around us with the coronavirus. We can be angry about what's happened to some of our patients in the burn centers. We can be beat down by life. We can. Or we can exhale that. Work to redeem the problem by first celebrating the opportunity, the blessings, and the gifts. So question number 1 is why me? Why me? And I'm going to pause just for a moment, give you an opportunity to not only hear part of my story, but to make it part of yours. We're going to take a 60-second pause here in a moment. I'd like you to think about the question, why me? And make a list. There's all kinds of research around how this leads gratitude to creativity, to collaboration, to innovation, to longevity, to vibrancy, to the ability to fight off disease, actually. Why me? So today we're gonna pause, give you 52 seconds now to make your list of things today you're grateful for. How about the sun rising? How about that hot cup of coffee? How about the eyesight, the ability to hear, lungs with air within them, opportunity to redeem problems? Why me? 45 seconds. Longest list will win. Make your list right now, leaders. 44 seconds, come on. All right, that is enough time making your list. Let's get back to work. How many of you had a name on your list? 2 of you. Out of, again, more than 1,200 attendees, 2 of you wrote down a name. Okay. Well, now the rest of us will as well. I'd like you to add the name of one person, one physician, one teacher, one researcher, one nurse, one custodian, one therapist, one anybody. One person in your life who inspired you to become the best version of yourself. We're going to pause again on this gratitude list. I want you to think about who that one person is. I'll go first. Mine is actually my mother. She is my father's caretaker, but before she was his caretaker, she was mine. Maybe the best example of my mother's leadership and love, and this is our calling leaders, ABA friends. It's not always easy, it's not always popular, but we are called into days like this to shine a light into the darkness and to remind people the best remains in front of them. They are not alone. They are not alone. They are phoenixes about to rise and soar again. My mother was that ever-present example for me. And maybe the best story about my mother's love shows up 4 days after I come home from hospital. So I could burn on 100% of my body, 100%, 87% was 3rd degree, spend 5 months in hospital, lose my fingers to amputation, barely made it out in 1987, but I made it home. I'm out, baby, homecoming. And then just a few days after I come home from the hospital, the doorbell rings. My mother goes to the door, she brings somebody into our house, and right away I recognize the person's voice. It's Mrs. Bartello. I hated Mrs. Bartello because she was our piano teacher. Okay, when I grew up in the Midwest, I didn't want to play the piano. I wanted to play baseball. I don't want to hit notes, man. I want to hit fastballs. I want to play Busch Stadium. That's where the Cardinals play. I know she's not there for me. Clearly. There's some things in life you can't do, ABA. There are some storms that are too hard, ABA. There are some difficulties that are just way too massive, ABA. There are things that we just can't endure and weather together. Just can't get through. I'll never play again. I can't figure out why she's in our house though. My mother brings her in. I look up and I say, Mama, why is she here? And doctors and researchers and nurses and therapists, friends, colleagues, heroes, I want you to remember how my mother responds. You may meet this response soon with a patient, with a colleague, with a coworker, with a spouse, with a partner, with a politician you disagree with. You may meet this response very soon. Here's what my mother says. Listen, you may want to write it down. She doesn't say a word. Talk is cheap. When what is required during days like these in the middle part of March while the rest of the nation and the nations are struggling mightily is humble, assertive, faithful, audacious action. Movement. My mother unhooked the brakes of my wheelchair. She rolled me away from the pity party where I had been for too long. I'd been there for more than 5 months already. Enough of that. At some point, you got to leave the pity party. There's only room for one there, and there's no room for you. My mother rolls me away from the pity party. Down the hallway, she takes me into the living room. She locks the brakes of the wheelchair in front of a piano and walks away. Never spoke a word. I hate my mom. And I think the only time I hated my mother more than that Tuesday was the following Tuesday, when the doorbell rang again. And Mrs. Bartello came back, and then the following, and then the following, and then the following. For 5, what's the next word? 5 years. This was not an easy fix. But if you ever visit me in St. Louis, Missouri, you will find a guy who runs a business, a man who has a house, a guy who's married, a guy who owns a piano, and a guy who has 4 kids who hate their dad. Because every Tuesday at about 3:30, the doorbell rings and a woman named Miss Christine comes by and instructs my kids in piano. So what I'd like to do right now for you leaders and researchers and friends and heroes is to put the question back in front of you. That one person who inspires you, even during tumultuous times, to become the best version of yourself. Who is she? Who is he? Come up with her name, and I'll give you 90 seconds to reflect. And while you do, what we thought might be cool today with the help of the ABA is they're going to help me sit down and play the piano for you. Now, there is no piano here. We were going to have one in Orlando, but guess what? The good news is I brought a video along. So I will play the piano for you right now. It's the very first time I ever played the piano, and the very first time publicly. It was at a conference in Las Vegas in front of 23,000 people. It looked a little bit like this. I was nervous. I hit the wrong keys all the time. You may not have noticed, but I don't have fingers. But a woman asked me at the conference, would you play for my family? And I knew the answer was yes. Even if I don't feel called for it, even if I don't feel capable, even if I right now don't feel up for it. The answer today, leaders and heroes, and that is you right now, it's yes. It's yes. And then you step, and then you step again. So I'm going to play for you my mother's favorite song. I think during these days, it might be beneficial to just pause, reflect, shut your eyes if you'd like. Reflect on that one person who inspired you, that the best was yet to come, that you are worthy. One person who inspired you to become the best version of yourself. You got 60 seconds, my friends. 60 seconds.
And it always starts slow. Haven't started taking notes, take them now, baby. My mom, never in a million years imagine that happening. But here's what a great doctor does. Here's what a great nurse does. Here's what a great leader does. Here's what a great researcher does. Here's what a great ABA friend does. Here's what a great survivor does, or a friend of a survivor does. They come, they sit down alongside of someone else who is struggling. They put their arm around them. And sometimes without speaking a word, they cast a vision of what remains possible still, in spite of amputations, in spite of scar damage from your neck to your toes, in spite of not yet believing personally that it's going to happen. Here's what my mother said without saying a word was this. I needed the reminder as a 10-year-old kid. You may need it today here in this video. Here's what she said to me. Listen, please. Pull the chair up a little closer. Here's what she said. Baby, they may have taken your fingers. They have not taken your life. You will not act like that in this home, in this family, when your best remains in front of you. What a gift. We have some challenges upon us as a nation, as nations, as a community, economically, financial headwind. I get it. There are difficulties going on in our burn centers. There are challenges we face with our colleagues, our coworkers, our beautiful patients and their families. I get it. And yet, We remain in the arena, and our best remains in front of us. Who taught you that truth? I'm not the first. So I'm going to be quiet right now. We're going to do an exercise. This is not optional. Okay, like seriously, this is not optional. I'd like you to grab your phone and think through one person who inspires you to become the best version of yourself. Maybe someone working today, maybe someone at home, maybe one of your patients, maybe one of your colleagues, maybe a partner, a spouse, a child, a parent, maybe someone who you know is watching this video a world away, but they're also part of the ABA. One person. And I'd like you to text that person and let them know that you appreciate them, that you were just thinking about them, that you love them, and you wanted them to know that their best days are in front of them. My friends, during difficult times, it is very easy to become incredibly isolated. We're going to break down those walls, you and me. Okay, we're going to bust them down. So right now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Pull up your phone, text that person, let them know they are loved. And if we're not back on video quite yet, it's okay. Text the next person. Keep the love going. We need encouragement during all days, but in particular days like these. So right now, I want you to just send a little love letter out electronically, letting someone else know that you are thinking of them, you are grateful for them, and that you love them. It will mean not only a lot to them, I promise you, as soon as you hit send, it's going to mean a lot to you too. 2 minutes right now, family. Take the exercise. Please don't just look at your email. Don't look at the next headline. Don't read the next Facebook post. Let's breathe out some goodness right now, okay? 2 minutes. Take time for at least one. Try to get 2 or 3 in there. You got a couple minutes right now. Go for it. All right, ABA, that is enough love. It is back to work. We have, about 10 minutes left in our time together right now. So I'd like to end with what I consider my favorite question of the 3. And the question is, what more can I do? What more can I do? In almost any setting, with almost any audience, the question should always be upward focused. But with the ABA, with your membership, knowing your heart behind our wonderful community, sometimes this question is best directed internally, like what more can I do for my mental health, for my faith journey, for my family? And then leaders, then we take it back as a healthy individual, back into a community that is longing for us to wholly show up. But today, when you ask that question, begin at home. Start there, okay? So here we go. Final story, real quick. What more can I do? A little boy named John was burned in a house fire on 100% of his body. Gasoline can exploded, trapped me in the garage. I panicked and I ran. It changed everything. One moment I'm this little guy, happy and healthy, and as I zoom in towards you, extremely good looking. And then the flash comes and the headwinds come and my life changes. The next picture will be hard to look at. I found myself with burns on 100% of my body. 87% were third degree. I am dying. I'm scared. I met, believe it or not, in love by these amazing people, my mom and my dad. But right after they come out of the room visiting me, the doctors come in, the nurses come in, and then it gets hard. But these amazing men and women were asking the question every single day, and after every single handoff and with every single interaction, what more can I do to make life for this little guy even better tomorrow than it was today? So I wanted to share with you in short what that team did for me. This may have been the thing that brought us together, but the cool thing is it has kept us together. The very first person in the ED that day was a gentleman named Dr. Cioffi, chief of surgery, in charge of the burn center, phenomenal researcher, great tactician, better man. Just a great lover of people, lover of life. Dr. Cioffi, born in Lebanon, and was burned as a little child himself. And I think through that experience, he became wildly compassionate, not only for his patients like me, for their families, which is as important because the family gets burned too when their patient does, when their loved one does, but also incredibly compassionate for the entire staff. This guy poured himself into that team every day. The physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, chaplains and social workers, the dietitians, he made sure each and every one of them understood the power of their work each day, how they directly influenced and impacted the outcome in this patient's life. He did it for the custodians. He reminded everybody on that team that their work mattered profoundly. He also, of course, did it to our frontline workers, our CNAs, our techs, our nurses, our RNs, the entire team. One of our nurses looked less like her, unfortunately a little bit more like him. My kids and I were watching Rocky this weekend. There was a Rocky marathon. We bought in. We watched Rockies 1, 2, and half of 3. Okay, that was our commitment level. This guy was from Rocky 1 and 2, a little bit of 3 as well. What's his name? No, it's not Apollo Creed. That's my burn nurse. His name was Nurse Roy. He was the kind of nurse who would come into my room every day. He would unhook me from the bed, pick me up slowly and haltingly, drag me back toward the bandage change. Okay, my little legs had no muscle mass on them whatsoever. I could not bear weight. But this guy knew that what he did matters now, maybe more than ever. This is the topic of my speech. I hope you're listening right now. What you do now matters now, maybe even more than ever. He understood this. So he would drag me back toward the bandage change, and on the walk back, he would say to me, "Boy, you are going to walk again. You might as well get used to it. Come on, move those legs. I'll walk with you." First time I heard him say that, I hated him because I knew he was a liar. The only time maybe I hated him more than that day was the following day when Roy came back into my room, unhooked my left arm, unhooked my right arm, unhooked my left leg, then my right leg, picks me up in those big, beautiful, bare arms, drags me back toward the bandage change, and while he's walking with me, he says these words, "But technicians and leaders and researchers, doctors, friends, family, heroes, when you hear what he says, don't listen from a place of fear. Listen from a place of faith and love." Listen to these words. It's a love song. "Boy, you are going to walk again. I'll walk with you. Come on, move those legs." Part of the reason why I love the Phoenix Society is I believe this is what they say to those they serve. You're not alone. You are not alone. We will walk with you. Being in the hospital is just the beginning point of a long, lifelong journey forward, but you're not alone. That's what Roy was reminding me as a little boy, and what he's walking me back toward was the bandage change. 45 minutes of debridement, 45 minutes then of cleaning that little body. We're an hour and a half deep. 2 hours later, they pick him up, bring him back into his room, rewrapped, remedicated. 2 hours of torture for them. How does the staff do it? How do you do it day after day? Is it the money? Is it the ease? Is it because it's just fun? Or is it because you realize miracles still happen? That we need individuals willing to fight for them, but miracles happen every single day. Do you guys, do you ladies, do you friends, do you heroes still believe in miracles? Yes or no? You see it every day if you have eyes open for it. Here's one in this little burn patient's life. Just one though, there are many others. This is considered the greatest sales job of John O'Leary's entire life. Proof, evidence of a miracle. But so is your life. So is the way we connect and collaborate. So is the way we work together for a cause greater than ourselves. My friends, we are Exhibit A, you and me, of walking miracles. What a gift to breathe that hope into the lives of others. Her name is Elizabeth Grace. She's an occupational therapist. I always knew I would marry someone who cared for individuals who have been burned. I had no idea what the person would look like, how beautiful she might be, but I knew her heart. I knew she'd be the kind of person who would want to go to an ABA meeting. I knew she'd be the kind of person that even if they had to move that meeting to a satellite location, that she'd still be tuning into it. That's Beth's heart. She's an amazing woman. And the night she and I were married, it was not just she and me, it was the entire work team, the entire family. Everybody came to the wedding. Not long after that, we had a little child named Jack. Jack now has a little brother named Patrick, and I'm gonna buzz through the family photo album super quickly. My wife likes to dress them like this. I dress them more like that. Jack and Patrick have a little brother named Henry. Now they have a little sister named Grace, and in Missouri, they just keep showing up, man. Jack and Patrick and Henry, and finally a little baby girl named Grace, and then a dog named Emma. Life is good. It is not perfect. It is not perfect. Don't get the wrong impression here. I'm not here to sell you sugar for your lemons. I'm here to let you know life is hard, but it is worth fighting for. It is good, and the best is yet to come. We just need champions like you, my friends. We need champions to keep carrying the torch forward. The question I'd like to put in front of you right now as we get ready to wrap up is, what more can I do? And my ask, the homework assignment is this: to consider every single day, asking this question, have a journal right next to your toothbrush. What more can I do for a patient, for a family member, for your personal finances, for your personal health, for your faith journey, for a spouse, for a partner, for an addiction, whatever you're dealing with right now, for the novel coronavirus? What more can I do to make tomorrow better than today? Ask it, answer it, watch what happens. What is true is incremental change, which is what will happen when you ask the question, what more can I do? Incremental change over time can have a profound effect on lives. Incremental improvement or decline in the way you love your patients, the way you love your work, the way you're doing your research, the way you're serving, the way you're connecting, the way you're bonding and loving can have a dramatic influence. The only question is, will our growth going forward improve or decrease? You get to choose, though, by nightly asking the question, what more can I do? What more can I do? Let's grab compound interest in our life, in our research, in our impact with our patients as we serve them today and then long term. So my friends, as we get ready to wrap up, I'd like you to make a commitment. We've been hanging out for the better part of 40 minutes. We have just about 2 minutes left on the runway. And with that time, I'd like you to grab your phone and text me. We were supposed to be together in Orlando. Instead, we're hanging out digitally all over the world right now, man. But I want you to text me your email address. This is not an optional exercise. It's mandatory. 314-202-5373. This is how we stay in touch. 314-202-5373. Your email, or the email of somebody you don't care for. I'll take either one today. And then hit send. So my friends, really, please take me up on this. This is how we're going to stay in touch. I'm going to send you a note on Monday morning called Monday Morning Motivation. I'm going to make sure you have access to my email in case I can ever do anything for you, your unit, one patient, a family member, someone during this crisis that we're currently under. We're here to serve. We're here to serve as our brothers and sisters keepers. For me, it's no joke. It's a calling. So if I can ever serve you, you may hit reply. Okay, this is a two-way street, and together we're better. So final time, leaders, 314-202-5373. Your email, hit send, and together we got this. As a gentleman who is also passionate about the Phoenix Society, I'm a member, I've served on the board, I connect those who are survivors in the community to the Phoenix Society almost every day, because with our reach, we get people reaching out all the time looking for help, looking for steps, looking for hope. And so I know of no one better than the Phoenix Society for that. That's why I connect them. But it's also why I'm going to connect you. I'm going to send you out an email linking you to them as well, because I want you to learn as much as you can about one of the most worthy organizations anywhere in the world supporting burn survivors long term, called the Phoenix Society. They're phenomenal. You're going to love them, maybe if you're not already uniquely familiar with them. There is a book out called On Fire. Check it out sometime. It's a book about life. I know 4 copies that were sold already in Missouri. It's pretty cool. There's another book coming out in April. I'm sorry, not in April, I'm wrong. In May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, baby. We're going to celebrate Cinco de Mayo together. The book is called In Awe. It's how to go through life, how to serve patients, how to lead your journey like a child, with the expectancy, with the hope, with the curiosity, with the wonder of a child. It will influence how we serve our patients, how we connect with those around us, and how we lead the journey forward. So be on the lookout for a book called In Awe. I promise you guys, I promise you ladies, you're gonna love it, okay? It comes out in May. I wanna thank you for being part of the ABA. I wanna thank you for being part of this video series. I wanna remind you, you have access to me. If I can ever serve you or your community or your unit or one patient, hit reply. And I want you to know, as markets continue to fluctuate, as hospitals continue to get crowded, as life continues to get hard, of a truth that isn't as frequently reported, and here it is. The best is yet to come. These words I'm about to say to you are 2,700 years old, and they're still true. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. We got this. It's going to be okay, and the best is yet to come. My friends, for this time and until next time, my name is John O'Leary, and today is your day, ABA friends. Live inspired. Thank you for being here. God bless. Have an awesome day. Thank you again.
Thanks, John, and thanks to everybody who was able to join us for this plenary session. Again, we're so sad that we can't all be together and continue the support and connection that we have each year among the burn care community. But we appreciate everything that you all are doing for patients everywhere, and we really appreciate your support of the ABA, and we will continue to be there for you and to help you do better with what you do on a daily basis. Best of luck to everyone, and stay tuned for more information. Take care.